Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Red Dwarf Rewatch, presented by the Not Funny Guys. I'm your host, Dr. John, and we have reached the penultimate episode of Series 12, Episode 5, M-Corp, directed and written by Doug Naylor. This one was released on the 9th of November, 2017. Getting kind of sad now. We've only got one more episode of this series, but let's break it down. So we open with Crichton coming in to wish Lister a happy birthday with breakfast. Does he want to know his age? No, he's doesn't want to know. Somewhere over 40 is what we get the hint at. Crichton has a present for him, goes to get it. However, Cat comes in, and as Lister appears to be having some sort of health event, heartburn or heart attack, not sure, he falls over with chest pain, and the cat thinks he wants to play chess. After he falls over from what appears to be a heart attack, Cat then proceeds to sit down and eat his food. We then find Rimmer visiting Lister in the med bay. Birthday and a heart attack, he says. Basically, Rimmer says he needs to probably have to retire and have people do things and spend all day in bed. And he's like, oh, wait, you basically already do that. Crichton comes in. Apparently, it was not a heart attack. It was just severe indigestion. And no idea why, as he proceeds to pound down a giant stack of fries. I think that's probably the thing. So they plan to stick a monitoring chip into him to, monitor his health. Chippy, who has a real hard time getting through some of his arteries, and Chippy, voiced by Oliver Malton, he suggests that diet and exercise might be in order for him. Suggests that might keep him from dying. And can't even tell him when he very likely is going to die, for which Rimmer wants to know. Chippy tells him it'll be at 63. The stress, though, gives him chest pains, and he then falls over. Alert goes off. He does have a block in his artery now. Thanks. Basically from telling us to die, and Chippy now shorts out. Apparently, he mixed up his death with Lister's, and Crichton then now plans that he has to investigate what's going on. Apparently, Chippy was running on old software, and that is why Chippy fried out. It comes to be determined, thanks to Cat confessing, that he unplugged the update machine years ago so that he could plug in his curling iron and his other hair devices. So they now realize that they haven't been getting updates for years. So they need to install a new update. They install it only to find out that JMC has been replaced by M-Corp. Apparently, they bought them, and this gets to explain them by Anita, little hologram woman telling them, played by Helen George. Most people would know her as the blonde from Call the Midwife. Love this part for her. There's a lot of corporate jargony video, like it feels like just like the one in The Office when they got Christian Slater, and it's like Jim makes fun of it about this video where you learn nothing, that kind of thing, when they get bought out by Sabre. And then all of a sudden materials start appearing all over the ship, new products. Lister gets particularly focused on the new lager. He goes to put one in the fridge, but all of a sudden notices that he can't, where's the old fridge? Where's the old beer from the fridge? Cat walks over, doesn't understand, takes it out, we can't see it, opens it, and sprays it all over Lister. So something's up. Crichton wants to run tests on this. Anything that apparently that's not M-Corp, anything M-Corp he can see, anything that's not M-Corp, he is now blind to it. Apparently M-Corp upgrade, there's some sort of filter on the software. It's working on Lister. Anything not M-Corp products will become invisible to him. This includes Crichton, Rimmer, and the cat, who eventually he no longer can hear them speaking, and then eventually they all go invisible on him. All the crew is invisible. They're still there, but invisible. Lister can no longer see his bed. He can't see most of his stuff, including his guitar, which he bumps into. Like I said, anything M-Corp. Can't see his own toothbrush, or the food canisters, or the toaster. Which, if it was toasty, that would be a relief. Rest of the crew, who can still see and talk to each other, discuss what M-Corp is. They find out that in the 26th century, it bought the planet Earth. Everything on it, too. They already owned all the power supply. They then introduced a think tax, and because of all the electrical neurons firing off in your brain, you would have to be to not get charged. You have to not thinking, and so no one stopped them. Crichton thinks that they might be able to access the mainframe of Red Dwarf and reset it to its factory settings to overcome the M-Corp issue. So they need to save a backup of Rimmer to preserve him. So he'll lose about a month. Anita, meanwhile, finds Lister and pitches to him the idea of an artificial assistant or a little getaway. He thinks it could help him get the crew back. So they teleport Lister to this M-Corp virtual world environment where everything costs something. He apparently qualifies for the basic life package. He can even purchase friends. He gets introduced to Steve, played by Ian Boldsworth. He rejects some of the price, but he wants the software off the ship, but he's now stuck in this virtual environment where everything he does and says costs money. Crichton finds the reset case in Captain Hollister's quarters. They learn, apparently, Rimmer can no longer remember the access code, but he does remember the question about his first kiss, apparently with his Uncle Frank, who snuck into the bedroom thinking it was his mother. But they managed to reboot the ship, and they reboot Rimmer. But Lister is still stuck in the environment. Anita is now basically torturing him by selling him pain meds after giving him a pain in his side, and this includes the water and the glass. It's the worst kind of capitalism. He even creates a fire and then sells him the fire extinguisher and the insurance until he depletes the words in his account for the day and he runs out of credits. He then starts getting charged for his time, which means they can age him. No credits, he's getting charged in lifespan. And this is where he gives in to this is where we will find out later, he sort of gives into the just give me consumerism. Crew finds the teleporter he took. They reboot Chippy in order to find him and use it to basically home in on him. And they teleport to this M-Corp environment where they find all these people who are apparently all Lister's friends he's purchased. Lister bought it and now he's like super old. And he still can't see them. He's basically lying in a chair with a guitar. Lister is become addicted to their marketing, basically. Anita then tries to offer them stuff. Crichton avoids it all, but then he buys a virus and gets that will shut them down. And then Lister manages to age in reverse, but he still can't see them. So they get him out of the system, back on Red Dwarf. Apparently the perception filter has been in his head most of this time. They have to basically reinstall Lister's files using Chippy, but also using the backup version of him that's always kept on the ship in case he dies. And they bring him back as a hologram like they did with Rimmer all those years ago. Interestingly enough, the last time he was scanned was 23 years ago. So this is Lister as we knew him in Series 1. It's the only one in the JMC file. So he basically gets reset with apparently Crichton using CCC cameras, closed caption cameras on the ship to try and piece some of it together. But it takes about a month. But we get the version of him back, and it's just like from the end. He's singing, he's annoying Rimmer, and he's called out for humming and little popping his mouth, and Rimmer says, "Oh God, he's back." Scene. Now, next time we will reach episode 6, Skipper. And then all we will have left is Promised Land, I think, is the only one we have left at that point. I'm not looking forward to this. Like I said, I don't want this to end. Never have. But as I've said previously, I want to do more with this stuff. So we'll find some ways to insert things. Like I said, we'll do some rankings, some YouTube shorts. We'll find a way. Don't worry. I'm not ready to be through Red Dwarfs. But if you like how things have been going, please like, subscribe, share, comment, all that fun stuff. If you want us to write us directly, you can do that at notfunnyguys.offthereels@gmail.com. You can find all our socials and that in the description. You can also find the email in the ticker right now. As I said, we'll be going on to the last time Andy Dick and Joe Rogan were ever funny, which is news radio, which takes us back to the late 90s. Interestingly enough, fun fact trivia, the opening credits for this TV show prominently feature the World Trade Centers that will not be there as of 2001, tragically. So I always end up thinking about them because they're prominently features the landmark of New York in the opening sequence. But until then, and until next time, so we've got one more episode of Series 12, and then Promised Land, and then we will be, unfortunately, moving on. But until then, if you'd like to enjoy some other Not Funny Guys products, we have our main podcast, Not Funny Guys Presents Off the Reels. This is where we talk about movies. We talk about television over here. But over there, we got the movies. We're in the middle of the live-action Batman films. We just posted our Batman Returns. Not as good as I remember it. unfortunately. And we'll be moving on to, since these are theatrical releases, we'll be moving on to the 1993 Batman Mask of the Phantasm. So we're doing all the theatrical releases, and then we'll be moving on to Batman Forever and so forth. So that's coming up there. If that's not your cup of tea, you can always check out my Not Funny colleagues and co-hosts of the Not Funny Guys Presents Off the Reels podcast, Casey and Eric. They have their own little podcast they do over there called Not Funny Guys Presenting Wrestling with the Horror of It All, where they talk about wrestling, WWE, and horror films. And they have, I don't know where they are. So, but you can also check out some of the, we're doing some of the Batman films for the Not Funny Guys Presents Off the Reel. We're actually doing those on the actual YouTube, so you can see us doing those as well. But they have that podcast. And then finally, we have our Not Funny Guys. We have one more podcast, which is me and our Not Funny gal, Dr. Kristen. Not Funny Guys Presents Thinking About Thinking. We just released a 2-parter episode last week, so you can check out both those parts talking about anti-Semitism. We'll be moving along there, but we do things on AI, culture, thinking, academics, and all that stuff. A little short form, more shorter than our bigger podcast, but if that's interest to you, check that out. But in the meantime, for what time we have left, don't be a smeghead, keep it not funny, and I'll see you next time.